Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue on the build of this Dolphin. Adam RC Dolphin. Summer is coming. Let's get this puppy in the air. So we're going to take the hatches off and we'll have a look at what we do to install the electronics. So let's take the hatch off and have a look inside this mess that we're going to unmess. This is the receiver I'm going to use to test the plane. It's a Frisky X8R. It's got a range of about, I think it's greater than 1.5 kilometer. That's about a mile. What's good about iNav, of course, you can set your iNav configuration that if you lose a signal, the plane will do a return to home and it will circle above you until you manually take control and then land the craft. Nice little receiver. It has a what you might call kind of a diversity antenna. They have to be put at 90 degrees to each other. Now that connects to the leftmost port you see right here on these pins. As your flight controller sits on the inside, it sits on the leftmost set of 3 pins. You'll notice that I have another wire from this, which is the telemetry. And what I'm doing, I'm using the crossfire port, these 4 pins here that are together, the set of 4 pins. I have the telemetry going into the smart port signal and to the signal of the crossfire port. Just have to set that in the UART. We'll see that when I go into the iNav configuration with iNav configurator. Now that receiver I'm probably going to place probably right here on this side and have the antennas go at 90 like so. I'm yet to decide that. I'm going to test with this receiver and then use the R9SX, which is a longer range receiver transmitter, and the Frisky X7, Tyrannus QX7 has this R9 antenna and package. We'll talk about that later as well when we get into the flying of the plane. This camera is an older Foxeer I've got. I have provision for the camera up front, which I'm going to have right there. You see the wire sticking out. I'm also going to put a camera facing rear on this craft, probably right here someplace. I'm going to make a little hole there, and we'll see that later as well. That's wired into the F405 Wing Easy, this beautiful SpeeDB FC that we're going to talk about a little more. The 2 red wires are spliced together, so the positive to both cameras goes to the same pin on the flight controller. So does the ground wire. The yellow wires are different. They have separate pads, of course. The signal wire each have separate pads. So on this flight controller, you have a pad of 4 pins. You got a positive, a negative, and camera 1 signal and camera 2 signal. Okay, up here we've got the GPS. This is a Maytech smaller GPS. It's the M8Q5883. Now that GPS takes quite a while to lock in on 6 satellites. The one I like better is this one right here that I have on an old apprentice craft that I've been flying lately. And you'll see it's right there. It's the M10Q. Much better. This thing, like, even in the house, I don't have to go outside. It'll lock in on 6 to maybe 14 satellites pretty quickly. It's real fast in getting itself found. Then over here I put the small E-chine VTX. I didn't like this hole they have here, so I just cut a little bit of foam out of here so I could slide the antenna right in like that. Then I'm going to just hot glue this VTX to that board right here. And you notice that board has slots in it, and you can loosen those screws and move that board back and forth and get some effect on the stability of the plane for the center of gravity if you're a little bit off with the battery. Now up here I've got the battery compartment, and in there I've got a 2250 14.8 volt battery I bought off of Amazon. Very nice batteries. SIGP, SIGP. I like these batteries. They're very well made. Very easy to charge, and I had one of these go completely dead. There was 0 volts in all cells a couple of days ago. It wouldn't charge, so I just let it sit overnight, and what do you know, lo and behold, next day it was 2.6 volts almost in each cell after being totally dead, and it charged up just fine. I have a couple of those. Those are great batteries. You see the USB connector to the flight controller is right here on the, you might call it the bulkhead of the cabin wall. I hot glued that there. Very solid. You can plug in, unplug without ripping it out of the I don't use the 2 screw holes that they supplied. I just put hot glue through the 2 screw holes because you can't really screw anything into foam unless you put a backing board on the back. Okay, the flight controller, I used a tape that I bought. I believe it was from China. And let me see if I can locate that. It's the greatest tape I ever had for sticking things in on the floor or the bulkhead of a model. It comes in a package like this. It's very thick. You see how thick it is. Very thick and very clear. So it's clear, so you can see where you're placing it if you make lines on your template before you stick it in. The greatest tape I ever had. I got that. If anybody wants to know where I got that, I can put a link but I'm sure you can get tape at your local hobby shop. I put a piece of that tape down there and I stuck the flight controller to it, and it ain't moving. But that tape is very forgiving. As you saw, it's very flexible, very pliable, so you could take that out if you really wanted to with a little effort. Just put something like a flat screwdriver under the edge and lift on the tape, not the flight controller, just put it under the tape and lift on the tape, and it will come out quite easily. Now I had a little problem with the motor on this aircraft. This motor right here, the original that came with the kit, and I've seen other people that had the same problem. It burned out on me. It just smoked. The first day I had it, it smoked and it burned out. So I don't know if it's the bearing or what it is, but I did see on a site on YouTube a guy he calls himself RCSCHIM, RC Shim on YouTube. You can look him up. He made some research into what kind of a motor should be used with the Atom RC Dolphin. And he said the T-motor F90, F90, it's a 2806.5, 1500 kV. It should be arriving today, so I should have on this video 4, I should be able to show you that motor. I'm going to install it and replace this original motor, which is, anyway, it's not the best, and I think it's a little too small for the aircraft. I like to have some power when I'm launching, especially in the wind. I don't like the aircraft to fall down a break. Okay, so the FC is installed. I'm going to do a little bit more work, probably, hopefully today on the receiver, and be able to show you that later. The VTX will be installed. The GPS is up here, it's installed there. And you see I just ran the wiring down here. I have to tidy this up, and I ran it under that board so that if I have to slide this board, it won't be in the way. Other than that, that motor, by the way, the T-Motor F90 is a 45 amp. And I did also purchase a new Escape. I didn't like the little Escape that came with the aircraft. This, of course, is the Escape that came with the flight controller. And it's not a bad Escape. I believe it's 30 amp. But the motor I've got coming is a little more oomph. Not known to burn out easy. And we'll take a look at that as soon as I unbox it. It should be coming in the mail within an hour. Okay, I took that motor out, and the one that burned, the one that came with the Dolphin. Now, this may have been my fault. I don't know. It's yet to be determined, but you can see it got so hot that you can see the end of the bolt right in there. You can see it sticking through. It broke off when I tried to unscrew it. The end of the bolt is still in there. And it must have got awful hot. So one note of caution. I was always careful with most of my motors, all of them I think, to be sure to put enough backing plate, wood plate, that they supply with the models. These guys right here, they give you several to be sure that you don't, I guess, put the screw in too far and to modify if you had a different motor like we're doing. But anyway, be careful when you're putting them in. There's nothing moving, there's no moving parts where the bolts go in, but it may have touched a wire or something. Small motors are a bit of a pain that way. I got the other one in. I took some modification to the mounting plate because the holes on that motor are just slightly a little bit wider than the motor that came with the model. So I just widened the holes like at the, I guess if you look at it here, the northeast corner, the northwest corner, the southeast corner, and the southwest corner. Just took a drill and kind of pressed down and made the holes a little bigger, and it fit pretty good. And then I took some screws. I needed some longer screws because I did use a couple of the plywood plates to be sure that it was strong enough. That's a fairly strong motor. So I got some screws that have a square hole Robertson, I guess you call them, and conveniently, I had some washers for my model stuff. And I got this guy mounted in here. I already had the new Hollybro Escape put in yesterday. And by the way, I wanted to mention, I might have forgotten earlier, that the Hollybro does come with a capacitor and the heat shrink for heat shrinking over the ESC, or what I call an Escape after. So let's give this thing a whirl and see if it's going to work. I'll connect up the power.
Welcome to OpenTX. Switch warning. 7.9 volts. INAV fixed wing group. Main camera. Warning. Flight mode 1. VFR bad. 0.
Okay, so let's plug this in and have a look and see what it's going to do. Hope you like my little tune I put in the Escape. There we go. Works like a charm. And it's beautiful. It goes right down to very low RPM. Smooth response on the upswing to the max throttle. Very nice gradient in the throttle. Love it. That's a great Escape. Great motor. So now that we got the motor installed, let's take a look at some other stuff that might be interesting. Okay, let's take a look at the different resources we have to get information on flight controllers, INAV configuration, etc. First of all, we've got the SpeedyV manual that we now know where we get from previous sessions. Those of you that didn't see the previous sessions, this will be informational. I'll go over there right now. If we go to the SpeedyV site, let me see, I'll type in SpeedyV here. SpeedyV, and we'll go down to SpeedyV, the website for FPV, and there we are. Once you get into the site, just go to the support menu at the top, then click on download, and you'll see the page which has the different downloads for all of the devices. We are using the F405 Wing Mini. Click on the Mini. Once you get there, you'll do a manual online preview. You can also get the firmware here if you haven't already done that. You want the one with pin.io. That's the one we want. We're looking for the manual, so we'll do an online preview. And once you get in there, you can do a search in this glorious manual. It's the best manual I've ever seen. Colorful, nice to use, lots of information. We can do a search for, let's say we're looking for something on how to configure a VTX. Just type in VTX in the find window, and you see there's 53 places where it's mentioned. If you go down there, we'll get a note on what the solder pads are for changing the VTX battery power over to a lower voltage if your camera and or VTX are supporting only 5 volts. So that's a great way to get information. This little manual right here. Go back here to the iNav configurator and GitHub. Now that's the thing that we're going to use to configure the FC using your laptop by plugging in the FC. If it's already in the plane or not, just take your FC, get an USB connector and connect it to your laptop. And that is right over here. I've got the configurator here somewhere right there. You just type in GitHub iNav configurator and you'll see a whole bunch of these things coming up. Go into the one that has the configurator mentioned. Then just click on, once you're in here in iNav GitHub, we're in GitHub right now, just click on Wiki and it'll give you the information, description of what iNav configurator is, etc., etc. You can look at the release notes or the configurator settings. If we take a look at the release notes, this should be read anytime you flash an FC with the firmware. It's very important to read this stuff because they do have changes that might affect your configuration settings. So they have known issues. There's none for this one. You can communicate to different people on Facebook, iNav Discord server. Important notes. This is a thing you should read. It's the docs on different things that you need to know for support, etc., etc. You've got to go through this, read it as much as you can, get familiar with it, because it's something that's one of the main braces in the support for these platforms. Now, if you look at configurator settings, there's much more information in here on things that you will use. For example, the Bing maps that you load to get your location, a map of the location where you're located, so you can draw waypoints on it to follow a waypoint mission when you get the plane ready to fly and you've tested it and you know it's stable. There's bunches and bunches of information on here. Map providers, tells you how to set it up. All kinds of good stuff. Now that map configurator will be used in, see, we're in the configurator right now, INAV configurator. We've already downloaded that in previous session. And the way you will use those maps is if you go into mission control later, when you get the thing running, you'll see a map of your local area where you're located if you've got your GPS location set. And you can bring in, let's say, waypoint mission that you have set up. We'll see that a little later. But this is a group of waypoints I set up to do a small test on another plane. It goes from waypoint 1 through to waypoint 6. I even did a little landing here, an auto landing. It worked pretty good. Okay, so that's that configurator. You want to read through that, get familiar with it. The INAV fixed wing group is the other tool that we can use. Very, very important information in there. That's the group that supports fixed wing group aircraft, not multi-rotors, not that kind of thing. These are fixed wing people that put out a lot of help and information and just great stuff that you need to get going in this hobby if you've not been too familiar. And even if you're familiar with the hobby and you want information on new stuff, this is the place to go. So they've got something called the INAV Fixed Wing Group Standard Open TX model. This is what we're going to have to download and install by hooking up the transmitter. This firmware will be installed on your transmitter so you can communicate with the INAV fixed wing flight controller firmware that you've downloaded already. So look through that, read the introduction. We're going to use mostly CLI commands that we're going to set up the aux channels for. These are called aux channels. They are settings that you put into the flight controller to enable the modes page, which is that page you've probably already seen. It's the modes page. I'll go to my INAV configurator and I'll show you where that's located. It's right here in modes. And when you load those aux settings, there's one, for example, for ARM. If your modes page is not showing ARM after you flashed your firmware, those settings will set up all of these different modes so you can operate these with switches on different channels, and we'll get into that in more detail after we look at this generality we're doing here right now. Okay, let's go back to our little setup I have here for the resources. The last one we've got here is OpenTX. Now this one is right here somewhere. Where have we got that? Right there. This is the downloads for your transmitter. This is where you get the OpenTX download for your transmitter right here. You click on this one, the latest one. You download that, and then you go here. The download is actually down here. You look at these download links here: Windows installer, Mac OS installer, and Linux. So click on the Windows one if that's what you're using, and you'll see the bubble went up. It's been sent down to my downloads page. It's sitting right here. You just copy that to a directory that you call OpenTX. Run that application, and we'll see a little bit more detail about that upcoming in this video. Okay, so that's a summary of the basic reference resource material that we're going to be using, and you should start reading this stuff as much as you can and get familiarized with it, because it's okay to watch someone else set up their setup and you just copy it and put it into your airplane. But if you don't understand how it all works, eventually you will get into some trouble where you need a lot of help because you did a whole lot of different things you didn't understand. And I know it's a quick way to get the plane in the air. It's a great way to get up there flying right away if you just copy somebody else's settings. And with this Atom RC plane, there's so many videos that it's probably pretty easy to do that. But it still is a lot more fun if you read these resources and you understand what you're doing. Let's download OpenTX. Go to a Google window, type in OpenTX, and it's called the companion. Go down to the OpenTX downloads. Click on the topmost one, that's the latest version. Scroll down to, I'm doing Windows, you can do Mac or Linux. I'm going to download Windows Installer. It just arrived in my downloads box, so I'll go there now. I'm going to copy that, then cruise over to the directory you've created to put this in, or create another one. I keep it in my hobby stuff here under FPV. Let me see, OpenTX, and let's just pretend we're building another one here. So what you'll do is you'll create another directory, another folder. Drop the file you just collected from the downloads into that guy and run the application. Click yes, I agree, and you're going to install OpenTX 2.3, and you're going to write it to the companion 2.3 folder and program files. Now, mine is already there, so I won't do that step. So after that install, go to your Windows apps, and you should see an OpenTX companion. Click on that. That will take a few seconds to open. And there it is. There's the OpenTX companion. Now, the next step I'm going to show is how to connect the transmitter so we can do some work on the transmitter and configure it for OpenTX and the iNav fixed wing groups standard pack. So there's going to be two little clips, one on how to connect the transmitter, and the other one is how to connect the USB with the SpeedyB FC to the microcomputer. So step over there right now. This is how you have to connect the transmitter to your computer before you flash your transmitter with OpenTX. You'll need a cable like that on one end, and of course the typical type B connector on the other end for a computer. And this is an older FrSky QX7 that I've had for quite a while. What you do next, you open that flap in the bottom of the transmitter. You put that connector into that port. Then you hold these two trim tabs together like so, and power on. Let go. And you'll get a screen like that. Don't hold the power too long or it'll power on. Just hold the power down until you see the screen come on and quickly let it go, but continue to hold the trim tabs together. Once you see this screen right here, write firmware, restore EEPROM, exit, etc., what you then do is you connect this end to your computer, and it will then say connected to the transmitter. Now, this particular transmitter is modified by myself. As you can see on the top here, I have extra switches. I have this guy right here that I added, and I have this guy right here that I added. I physically punched holes in the transmitter face. I installed 2 switches, and this is the ACCST model. So it had 2 extra ports, you might call them, on the inside for 2 extra switch positions. And they're configurable in the firmware. So instead of buying another transmitter, if you need extra switches, if you need help on modifying that, I can make a video for it and I can show you exactly how it has to be modified. I'm going to save you a few $100 probably. Connecting the flight controller to your computer for configuration to iNav. I opened another SpeedyB here. You're going to need the USB device that connects to the flight controller. So you take the I think it's the biggest cap of cables, pack of cables, and remove the cable that is the biggest. It's got the most wires on it, I do believe. Right here. And just to verify, we got power there, and ground is the second one, and I believe that's what that says here. It says power on one end, ground on the other. That's right. And if you look at the connectors, they're on the bottom as we see them here. So that will go into that connector like so. Push it in firmly. Okay. Now the other end plugs into the flight controller. And I believe I have one right here. That goes into this port right here, the one with the lettering on it. And that goes in like so. And again, push it in nice and firm. So that connects the USB adapter to the flight controller. Now to get to the computer, you're going to need maybe an Android charger cable or anything that has a Type-C connector. It's rounded on both ends. It's not like an Android connector. This is an Android that would have a Type-C connector on it, or an Apple maybe. And the other end would have a computer connector. So you plug that end into the Type-C connector on the USB adapter, like so. And this end, of course, goes into your computer. And that's how we will connect to the computer to configure the FC. Okay, you will need your transmitter connected to your laptop to do this. Next step, we're going to go into the iNav fixed wing group screen. This one right here. Come on, there we go. So just scroll down here and have a look. These people are the ones that make the standard model for the OpenTX transmitters. And we'll download that right here. So let's just take a little look first at the contents. As I said before in a previous video, there are some commands that we're going to have to copy over, probably into the flight controller using iNav configurator. It gives the supported transmitters here. The one I'm using, of course, is the QX7. I've already got configured a QX7 and I think it's a QX7 Access, this one, right? The one that works with the R9 SX receiver. It'll also little comment here about the Express LRS. Due to limitations, this model will not work over the protocol. So some more features down here. They talk about features, the switch layout of the transmitter. Now, when I talk about the ARM switch a little later, just make a note of this maybe. That's the switch that's at the back left side. It's the long one at the back. That's the arming switch. And we'll talk about how to configure that a little bit more. The one on the side on the top here is the what is that now? That's one we don't have on the QX7. That's why. This is a Horus or a Nex. That's an Express. Yeah. So I don't have this switch right here. What I did was I built in, as I showed you previously on the two switches I added another couple of switches on my transmitter, one right there and one right there. So the switch that's on the left side of the four switches that are called A, B, C, and D, this is the one that gives you the angle or the acro mode. Middle position is horizon. The next one gives you the cruise ability and manual ability. The one at the back on this side is a multi-function, and I have it set to reset the timer if I have a timer going for my flight. This one right here, switch C, is the auto trim feature or the auto tune. And the last one, being D, is the position hold and the return to home. So just keep in your mind what the arming one is. That's the one right there that we'll be seeing a little bit later. Okay, so if we go down a little farther, they talk about the different modes and the switches that are used. Good stuff to read. You should read through all of this. Get familiarized with it. It will help you greatly when you get into configuration and flying the model. You should know these switches by heart before you try to fly the model. You shouldn't have to look down at the transmitter too often because this little Dolphin will zip through the air at I think it cruises around 40 miles an hour, so you don't want to be looking at the transmitter too much. Okay, so let's download this software. So click on download. And there we saw it just sailed up to the top. That means it's in my download folder. So I will navigate there. Click on the iNav fixed wing file that just downloaded. Copy that. Navigate back to where you're going to put it. And I usually put it, I'll show you where I've got this. I have a hobbies folder, FPV, and OpenTX right there. And if you look up here, I've got something called the iNav Standard Model Download. Now, I've already copied that in there, so make yourself that folder if you want and just copy it in here. And when you click on it to open it, you'll get these three directories. Now, the one right here that says, not that one, fixed wing group, click on that one. You'll see another folder. Then you'll see another list of things. The one I'm looking for, of course, is the settings file for my QX7, Tyrannus QX7. If you have a Radio Master, you will use this one. If you have a jumper, you'll use this one. These are standard models that we're going to place into the OpenTX companion, and we're going to eventually send that to the transmitter. Okay, now that we've chosen the right transmitter, just double click on that. Now your transmitter has to be connected, remember, still. That will open up TX Companion, and it will place the standard wing group model right here. Okay, now that we've got that, we've got to place it in our transmitter. So go over to this column right here, the second one down, and you'll see it'll say read models. That will read the models from the radio. And if you do have other models on your transmitter, you will see them right here. Click and drag that one over and place it down in whatever notch is available. Now, that's basically all you need to do to get it to the transmitter. So just click on this one right here, write models and setting to radio. You are about to overwrite all models and settings. Say yes. Current profile, click check firmware. Okay, I don't want that. I'm just going to, you can do different things here. I'm just going to write it. Now, if you do have a lot of models and you're afraid this might glitch or it might not work, when you read your models in from your radio with this icon right here, do a file save, or you can do also a write, no, not that one, sorry. Is it this one? Backup radio to file. You can do that one and save it. And then if anything happened when you did this drag over to here and whatever, and you wrote it, you can always go back and read that file by opening up wherever you've saved it and bringing it back in and then trying it again. Okay. Now, let's look at one other thing we've got to do. When you connected your transmitter, you should see a USB drive D. We can now just kill this one in the companion, by the way. Just knock that one out. The one that's not the one for your radio. So right here, we've got something. This is the D drive. It might be a different letter in your computer. If you're using a D drive already, it may have assigned a different letter, but it's usually D drive. This is the D drive now. It's looking at the storage in your transmitter. And there's something called the sounds pack. Now, I've got a lot of sounds in here already. I've since loaded quite a few. If you don't have any, you won't see any. What we're going to do now is go back to that directory where we saw the this list of transmitters here. Go back to the previous directory and the previous one, and then you'll see when you downloaded that pack, you got something called the OpenTX Sound Pack. Double click that, and you'll see down here at the bottom, if you want to see what sounds are on there, just double click that file. It'll open up a description of the different files. You'll see acro mode when you go looking for it in your radio. We'll see that after we get rid of this stuff. You'll see it'll be called IFACRO, IF acro. They all begin with IF, most of them. There are some that are different if you load other sounds in the future, but these are all IF. This is the iNav fixed wing group. So altitude hold, battery critical, GPS, IF, GPS, etc., etc. So what we want to do now is drag. Remember, this G drive here is your sounds directory. Double click on that. Open up the same one that you'll see English probably, unless you speak a different language. And by the way, when you open up this sound pack right here, where we're going to drag it from, double click that, you will see it's another description of the, okay. So that's another description. The SD card is actually right here. And there's the sounds. When you double click on that, you'll probably see a list of languages. Just pick out the English one. And if you double click on that, you'll see the sounds are all in here. Okay. Click on that EN file that's on your laptop and drag it right over to the EN file there. Now that will copy all of those sounds over. If there's any sounds in your EN file, your English or whatever language file you've got on your transmitter, it won't overwrite any. It will just add any that are missing. We'll just let that complete. So now that we're done with the sounds, we can close down the D drive. Well, actually, just leave it up for now. We'll close the whole thing in a second. You might notice here I've got two IFWG standard Vs. I have been working on another one, so yours will probably show this 1237. So let's just go in there and take a look at that right now. I'll just make this window a little bigger. We're in OpenTX Companion. These are the radio, your radio models that you have in your radio. They will be different, of course, than mine, except for this. So let's change the name of this now to make some sense with the Atom RC Dolphin. So double click that. And it'll take a few seconds to come up. Now at the top you'll see model. This is actually a model name. I'm going to make it, let me see, Atom ARC Dolphin. You can name it whatever you like. Hit enter. And you get something that looks like a simulator. So now this thing has a radio simulator. If you move the sticks around just like on your radio, it will actually simulate all of the settings that you set in the radio, and you can watch what happens as you do certain things. We'll see that a little later. Close that down. And if you go into inputs, I think, yeah, inputs. Remember I talked about the arming switch on the top left-hand corner of the transmitter at the back. Now, if you use that and you don't like to have your arming switch at the front, I have mine so that it's at the front when it's off, it's unarmed, and when I push on it, it goes to the back, towards the back. That's called arm. Well, if yours doesn't work right, just change this arm switch thing from positive here to negative weight right here. Okay, so go in, double click on that line, and you'll see it's where now, right here, GB. The weight is positive 100. You just would switch that down to, let me see, I think you do it this way, in negative. You just go all the way down, make it negative. I don't see a way to change the negative sign, but anyway, just hold it down until it goes down to negative 100. And I won't bore you with that, but that's how you would do that. To change the direction of the switch, I have it armed when it's at the back, so I don't accidentally hit it, and disarm it if it's to the front when I'm flying. Okay, you'll notice that, by the way, nothing else changed in your radio for your other models. It shouldn't have. The only thing that would have been added was this new model. And so all of the inputs, logical switches, etc., only pertain to this model. So if we go look at, I don't know, logical switches now, you'll see that they left open very kindly all of the top ones that we could use for something else, and we will be adding other things. I've got all kinds of little goodies I'm going to eventually put out to control the model. They started at L31, you'll see, right here, and they went down to L64. These are the logical switches. These, as we saw before, I think another video I mentioned, it checks certain things like switches, what positions are in, and all that, and turns on a logical switch so that when you get to the special functions, you can then act on those switches. And you notice the first switch, and that means when you turn the radio on, it will play the track iNav fixed wing group right here. This is the little sound file right here. So this is the command play track. When switch 1 is on, it plays the track for iNav fixed wing command, iNav fixed wing group. And the other switches for activating sounds and certain things that happen in your flight controller are down here. The modes that would set, for example, return to home, manual mode, auto tune, that kind of thing. Okay, let's close this down. We're done with this now, so just click on this right here, just in case you did any changes. And you can write the models to the radio. Oh, I don't want to do this. Why are you not writing? Okay, let me go back here. I think I got off the page somehow. I'll just discard. They didn't change anything anyway, but you could write it if you want. So now we can close down this this panel right here. We're done with the transmitter, all the changes. We will go now to iNav configurator. So disconnect your radio by pulling the USB out of your computer and also out of your transmitter. Just hit the power button once and the transmitter will go off, and then turn it back on because we're going to use it now with iNav configurator. So go ahead and, as per the little instruction I gave how to connect your flight controller to your laptop, connect that now, please. And when you get the signal, you should get a COM port showing right here. Just connect. We're going to go and take a look and see if your radio is configured to give commands to the flight controller. So go down to receiver, and you'll see when I move the sticks in my radio that I do have control. I'm sending commands to the flight controller from the radio. You should have that. If you don't, you probably didn't set this up properly right here. You might have to put, if you're using Crossfire, you might have to put CRSF in there, not S-Bus. Once you've got that working, another thing we can look at before we sign off for this video is the outputs, I think it is. Where is that? Up here. Outputs. If you go to the outputs page and you scroll down to this panel, which shows your servos, again, if you use the right stick on your transmitter, you move the aileron left and right. They should go in opposite directions, of course, and your elevator up and your elevator down. So if you move them together, they will move differently than if you just move the aileron. So all control for the aircraft is on the one stick, basically, except the throttle on the left. We have no rudder, no elevator. It's all included with the ailerons on those two servos. Okay, if you do any changes, don't forget to save and reboot. And I'll give you one more little thing. If you've got your SD card in and you want to play around with that, possibly maybe you're steps ahead of me and you can't get your black box, that is the SD card on board on the flight controller, on the Speedy B, that beautiful Speedy B flight controller. This is probably the reason why. If you get it sitting here and it doesn't show this panel, it's just going around in circles and it can't connect your black box, go down to CLI, type in get black box, I think. Yeah, and when they shipped the flight controller, it was shipped for serial. So it will say black box device equals serial, not SD card. If that's what you've got serial here, just copy this part right here, copy it down, well, type set first, and then copy that thing into there, paste. Oh, I guess I lost it now, so I'll go back up and get it. Black box device, I'll copy the whole thing, just right over it. So if it was serial in this part right here, change it for SD card, do a save settings. And if you have an SD card in your flight controller and everything else is hunky-dory according to what we did so far, when you go to black box, you should now see this page. And if you go down, it will say onboard SD card, card is ready. Available space, whatever you've got. You might have a, I don't think it'll take more than a 32 gig card. I did try it with a 32 gig, but I have a 16 in there now. And you'll see that it's got free space for logs is 0.9 gig. It usually would say 4 gig, but I've used some other space on that card, so it's only got 0.9, but 0.9 gig for logs is quite a bit. It only reserves 4 anyway. It doesn't matter if you put a 32 in, it's going to reserve 4. Okay, and once you get some logs, I'll show in a later video how to pull those logs off. You don't have to take the SD card out. You just have to, through the CLI, issue a command, and you will get another, well, I guess I might as well do that right now. What you do is you type in, what is it, mass storage card? I think MSC in CLI. You got to be patient here a little bit. The device will reboot. I have a massive, nasty cold, by the way. I went from a sore throat to a cold, so, but I'm not dead yet. So here's drive E. This is now the onboard SD card on the flight controller. And if you did have logs, you'd see another directory here called logs. I just so happen to have pulled this card out of a security camera I've got on my property, and these are just events that the security cam recorded, and I can't reformat this card. I've got another one coming. But anyway, that's what you will get. You will get this file, and you can copy your log files down and run them through the black box tools from GitHub and show all kinds of great things. Or maybe you're a computer nerd like I was, and you can just look at the comma delimited, I think it is, files, and put them into a spreadsheet and do all kinds of neat things with them. One more thing we have to do in the transmitter to be sure that everything is hunky-dory. Go to open, well, you have to connect your transmitter to the laptop again, or your Mac or whatever, and open up OpenTX Companion. And when your radio is connected, as per the procedure, load read the models and settings from the radio. Now, right up here, you're going to see a gear right there. Click on that guy and check to be sure that the radio type is your radio type. Okay, right here. It should be the correct radio type by now. You've got a list here of other ones. The other thing you've got to check is that something here called no GVARs, this one right here, that should be off. It should not be on like that. It must be off. Okay? If that is on, turn it off and Okay that, and right the where is it? Right here. They got it on top. I don't know why they have it on top. Write models and settings back to radio. So you just write them back to your radio, like so. And that's done. Now, if you don't see that, if you don't see what I just explained, then your OpenTX on your transmitter either was not installed or you have to update it. So then you would have to go to um, this document, iNav fixed wing group com, the one that we were in before. Go down to updating. Well, you can actually just, it's probably easier to find it by doing a search. Just say find and edit, look up updating. And there it is there, updating the firmware to global variables. Read through that. And we just did this. We turned the no GVARs off, this guy right here. If things aren't going good, you'll probably have to update your firmware. So go through this procedure to download the firmware and update your firmware, your model. You may have to repeat the model settings we did earlier to update your transmitter for the model we read in, and we changed the name to ARC Dolphin. You'll have to do that again, possibly. Okay. Okay, a couple of other things to do. Just be sure that your flight controller is now connected to your computer, and fire up iNav configurator and connect. We're going to be going down and doing some work in the CLI. So click on CLI. Close this window for now. Now go to your, navigate in your computer on the internet to the inavfixedwinggroup.com again, and do a find and look for CLI commands. Okay, you'll see that one, that's not it. Go down to the second one, and if you get there and this is not open, this blue bar, check on the end, like so, and you'll see this open. What you'll do is copy all of these commands. These are the aux commands I talked about, I think, in a previous video, that will set up our modes. Copy that. Go back to iNav configurator, and in the command line right here at the bottom, do a edit, paste. Paste those things in. I won't, because it'll overwrite mine, but just paste that in and it will auto do a save. Now, let's go back to this iNav fixed wing group document. There's more things we have to look at here a little bit, just a couple more. We'll go and look at the flight modes in a second. That's making changes. It does say iNav 3, but just ignore that. Now, modes change, okay? You may have to do this right here. I'm not sure. It depends on the transmitter you've got, maybe. But what we could do is set up auto trim anyway. Let me see. Servo auto trim. Yeah. You should see this mode. If you don't, well, we'll go and take a look at that in a second. Now, transmitter changes. You may have to go into your special functions and your flight modes and have a look at these if they're correct. See, they say the process on the transmitter will be different depending on the transmitter model. So if you have trouble with this, just drop a note in the comments below the video and I'll come back on this stuff. CLI changes. we'll want to put this feature in. So copy this feature right here, auto trim. And let's go back to your command line and drop in feature auto trim. And if I do a get auto trim just to see, I think mine should be on. Servo auto trim rotation limit equals 15. Now, if I put that command in there with this FC and this version, is it going to work? Yeah, it enabled it. So I have to be looking for get FW underscore AUTO, for example. No, it still didn't find it. So if I look up feature, oh yeah, feature, F-E-A-T-U-R-E, then I will see them. Here they are. So these are the features I've enabled in this particular FC. I've got, you'll see now, FW Auto Trim. It was probably on in the first place. I thought you could do a lookup, but you have to type feature to get it. Okay, so that's done. Now that we've done that, just save your settings. Boy, I think my cold is going to bite my head off, folks. Now let's go down to modes, and you probably now will see a change in your modes page after copying those aux files in there. You should see most of these modes in here right now. I have changed mine a little bit, so they won't be exactly the same. Okay, at this point, you should have your transmitter on. And with all the changes we did, if you flip your arm switch at the top left at the back on, you should hear this.
Arming.
Should say arming. And if you pull it back,
Disarmed.
disarm. Okay?
Arming. Disarmed.
The other switches,
Return to home. Cruise. Position hold. Cruise. Auto level. Auto tune. Manual. Cruise.
see these things move on the
Auto
page?
tune.
That's how it senses where it is.
Cruise.
These things moving in these channels tell it what mode to activate. So if I move this, you see when this channel value moves up to this line that I've set it at. I can change these, by the way. I can modify these. We'll look at this later. This will go dark blue, which means that it's active. If I turn it off, it goes back to gray.
Position hold.
And position hold, I believe, is up here. Where is position hold? Oh, right there. No.
Cruise. Return to home.
Maybe I've got these reset. I've been playing around with this stuff anyway.
Return to home.
That's how it all works.
Position hold. Manual. Cruise.
You will see these things move as you move the switches. Now it's on manual. You see, this value of the channel switch changed when I moved it down to
Manual.
the down position. Switch B down.
Cruise. Manual.
That means manual mode is on. It turns blue.
Cruise.
Okay. All right. So that's about it for this video. I'm sorry I didn't put any videos out for the last 2 weeks. I've been either sick or too busy to get it done, but I promise I will do more in the upcoming week. I will have 1 or 2 in the upcoming week to continue on with the configuration of the aircraft, etc., etc. So you guys have a great weekend, and you gals have a great weekend, and enjoy the video. If you have any comments or questions or you need help, post it as a comment at the bottom. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe doesn't cost anything, by the way. I'm not looking for money. So enjoy, and see you in the next video.